Hello again everyone, and welcome back to the InDesigner, the videocast that provides information, instruction, and insight for designers using and learning Adobe InDesign. I'm your host Michael Murphy, graphic designer and Adobe certified expert in InDesign CS3. And this is episode 47, Paste Remembers Layers Very Well. This episode will be quite shorter than the last one, and we'll take a look at only one feature that's buried under the Layers panel menu called Paste Remembers Layers. A few weeks back, Manuel in Germany asked me a question for which this feature was the answer, and in responding to his question I learned a few additional things about it myself. I love when that happens, and I'm turning that new knowledge into a podcast so I can share it with all of you. Manuel's question was, is it possible to copy or move layers from one InDesign document to another? Now, if you're a Photoshop user, of course you'd expect this functionality. In Photoshop, you can just select a layer from the Layers panel in one document and drag it over the canvas of another document, and you're done. I wish this was possible in InDesign, and I hope Adobe's engineers are listening because it would be a great addition for CS4. However, there is a way to copy layers in InDesign too, just a different way. As feature names go, Paste Remembers Layers kind of explains itself, but there are lots of little details I unearthed about how it works that are worth demonstrating. By default, Paste Remembers Layers is turned off when InDesign is installed, so let's take a look at what that means first. In this layout, I have a photo on a layer called Photos. I'll cut that image to the clipboard, and let's pretend I make some other adjustments in my layout before pasting it back in. So I'd be clicking on many different objects to do that. Notice in the Layers panel that as I select other objects, I'm changing what Adobe refers to as the target layer. Now I'm ready to paste my photo back in, but my target layer is the text layer. With Paste Remembers Layers turned off, what do you think is going to happen when I paste that photo back in? As you can see, it ends up on the text layer, since that was the target layer at the time. I'll quickly undo that and also point out that even if I choose Paste in Place, the photo goes back in the right position, but it's still on the wrong layer. I'll undo all of that, and let's see what happens with Paste Remembers Layers turned on this time, which I'll do by going to the Panel menu, selecting Paste Remembers Layers, and releasing the mouse. Now, I'll cut that image to the clipboard again, and select this text frame to change the target layer. And when I paste the image back into the layout, it's pasted back on the layer from which it was copied, regardless of what the active layer in the document had been. And once again, I'll undo all of that just to bring us back to where we started. Now, there may very well be rare instances when you don't want Paste Remembers Layers on, but more often than not, this is how you'll want InDesign to behave. If you're using layers to manage your layouts, which you all should be, people, don't make me tell you again, you'll want to keep things organized when you cut, copy, and paste in them. Now, Paste Remembers Layers isn't technically a preference in that you don't turn it on or off from the Preferences dialog box, but it's rather unique as panel menu settings go. Unlike most panel menu options, this one is sticky, and here's what I mean by that. Most of the time when you set a panel menu option in an open document, it's document specific. You can only make it the default by setting the option with no documents open. And even when you do that, none of the documents created prior to that change will be affected. Only new documents will have that setting applied. But Paste Remembers Layers works differently. You saw me just turn it on in this document a few minutes ago, so it should be document specific, right? But look what happens when I create a new document. It's turned on there too. And what about when I open a document that was created prior to me making the change in the panel menu? It's on in that older document as well. The reason most other features don't behave this way is that most other settings would change things in your older documents that don't need to be and shouldn't be changed. If, for instance, a panel menu option like Allow Pages to Shuffle were to get turned on retroactively in all your previous documents, it could be a disaster. But Paste Remembers Layers, on the other hand, affects nothing you've done before. Think about it. Until you copy and paste something, and at that point it's you who's changing the document, having Paste Remembers Layers turned on is meaningless for that old document. So making the setting sticky, both backwards and forwards, is safe for InDesign to do, and it's an easy way to manage the feature. So the short answer to Manuel's question is, yes, just turn on Paste Remembers Layers and copy your content from one document to the next. But I find that short answers just lead to more questions, so I did some digging to see if I could elaborate on that answer and tell him a bit more about how this feature behaves. So here's the long answer. To demonstrate this, I'm going to create a new document, then go to the Window menu and choose Arrange Tile Vertically to display both files side by side. I'll also position the Layers panel in the center between both documents since we're going to be looking at it quite a bit. The new document contains only the default layer named Layer 1. If I select this text frame in the first document, which is on a layer named Text, and paste it into the new document, a new layer named Text is created above the existing layer in the file. However, if I change the layer name in the new file from Layer 1 to Text, then paste that text frame into the document again, it gets pasted onto that layer because it matches the layer name in the document it came from, which helps when you're trying to maintain layering order in separate documents. Bear in mind this is case sensitive, so if I change the layer name to Text in all caps in the original document, copy the text and paste it into the destination document, a new layer called Text in all caps is created. For the rest of these examples, I'm going to need that text layer name to match, so I'll quickly change the case back. Now let's see what happens when I copy everything in this document from the text layer and every layer above and below it and paste it into the new document. The contents of the text layer get put on the text layer that was already in here, and the new layers were added with the exact same relationship they had to the text layer from the original document, with background images below it and captions and photos above it. The relationships between layers is perfectly maintained, only the color coding assigned to each layer is lost from document to document. So that's pretty cool, but wait, it gets better. I'll go back to the original document, and this time I'm going to select everything but the objects on the text layer. In the Layers panel, I'll Option-click, that's Alt-click for Windows users, to select the background images layer's objects. Then Shift-Option or Shift-Alt-click on the Photos layer and the Captions layer. You can see from these colored squares in the Layers panel that nothing on the text layer is selected. So I'll copy all of that, paste it into the new document, and it still does the same thing. It still organizes the layers relative to the text layer, even though I haven't copied anything from the text layer in the original document. So not only does paste remember layers, but it would also seem that layers remember layers. In the document they came from, the photos and captions layers used to exist above a layer called text, and the background images layer used to exist below it. Even though nothing from that text layer came with them to their new home, the pasted layers remembered where they belonged in relation to a different layer named text in a completely different document. I know this is a super geeky thing for me to get so excited about, but that's how I am. I think that's very cool, and I did not know that it worked this way until I explored, pardon the pun, a few layers deeper to answer Manuel's question. I suppose I should also mention at this point that it's not just copying and pasting that does this. Simply dragging an object from one document window into another also preserves layer data. So paste remembers layers, and layers seem to remember each other. Do you know what else remembers layers? Snippets and libraries do. If paste remembers layers is on when you add an item to a library, and it's on when you place it from the library into a new document, it brings all of the layer information with it. For the full story on libraries and how they work, check out episode 17. The same goes for snippets, and there's a great technique for using snippets and paste remembers layers in combination that can make setting up layers faster and easier. And I know I'm not the first person to mention this little trick, but it's directly related to our topic in this episode, so it's worth demonstrating here. When no InDesign documents are open, the Layers panel is completely empty, and the New Layer option from the panel menu is unavailable. Because of this, there's no way to set up a default set of layers as an application preference. So every time you create a new document, it contains only one layer named Layer 1. I tend to set up a standard set of layers as soon as I create a new document. Nearly all of my documents have, at the very least, a transparency layer, a text layer, and a photos layer. As a rule, I keep my transparent objects on a layer below my text whenever possible. Because of this, I can paste a transparent object from one document into another document, and it's a pretty safe bet that the pasted layer is going to end up behind my text layer in that destination document. The way InDesign works, I have to add those layers every time, but with paste remembers layers and snippets, I can speed that process up. In any new and preferably empty document, I'll change the name of layer 1 to text. Then I'll Command-Option-click or Control-Alt-click on the PC the New Layer button to create a new layer below it that I'll name Transparency. Then I'll Control-Option-click again to create a layer below that and name that one Background. A regular click on the New Layer button adds a layer at the top, which I'll call Photos. Next, I'll draw out a frame on one layer, apply any swatch to it just so I can see it, then Option-drag the colored square from that layer in the Layers panel to the one below to copy the frame there, then to the one below that, and then to the one below that. Now that frame exists on every layer in the document, so when I select all, you can see that something's selected on every layer in this file. With everything selected, I'll make this window smaller and drag those objects out to my desktop to create a snippet file, which I'll name myDefaultLayerSet.inds. At this point, I no longer need this document. So now, whenever I create a new document, all I need to do is drag that snippet into it, and all of my preferred layers, in the stacking order I want, are added above the default of Layer 1. Then, I just delete Layer 1, and when I delete these placeholder frames, which I no longer need, I now have a document set up with all of my standard layers, and I'm ready to get to work. Before I go, I hope you'll stay with me for a couple of quick but important announcements. First, I'm going to be teaching a 2-day Adobe InDesign CS3 Masterclass for Designers through EEI Communications in Alexandria, Virginia on March 18th and 19th. This is a hands-on class where everyone is set up at a computer and can follow along with my sample files. The class is being offered on those dates and on 5 other dates throughout 2008 in both Alexandria and Silver Spring, Maryland. For more information and a complete schedule, go to www.theindesigner.com/masterclass. I'll also be presenting 3 sessions at the upcoming InDesign conference in Miami Beach, February 26th through March 1st. Go to www.idconference.com for schedule and registration information. And finally, I want to let everyone know about a new book available from Peach Pit Press by my good friend Scott Citron, designer extraordinaire, Adobe certified expert, and all-around great guy. The book is Professional Design Techniques with Adobe Creative Suite 3. This book fills, in my opinion, what has been the biggest gap on the creative software bookshelf: project-based design instruction written from a designer's perspective. If you order the book from peachpit.com/prodesigncs3 and use the promo code you see on the screen here, or that's posted on the blog, you'll get 35% off the cover price. That does it for this episode. I'll be back in a few weeks with a new episode. In the meantime, feel free to post your questions or comments about this or any other episode on the new blog at www.theindesigner.com. You can send me an email at info@theindesigner.com or look for me on AIM or iChat as The InDesigner. Until next time, this is Michael Murphy for the InDesigner Videocast. Thanks for watching.